Hi, Victoria. I see you're online. Just want to make sure you can hear us okay.
Hey, Patrick, was the mayor vote on that? Is he going to energy right?
Uh-oh, no response. Victoria, can you hear us okay? Wanted to make sure sound's working here. Okay. Lordy. It's getting a little rowdy. She's trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm texting her. Yeah. She was here. I saw her for a moment. She's still on. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it counts as quorum. Victoria, your silence will mean a yes vote. Yeah, Victoria, when you're ready, we're wanting to do a sound check. Oh, she can. Yeah. She can hear us, so that's good. I just got the text message. Just don't know, Victoria, maybe if we could try and hear you, it would be helpful. Oh, she's
There she is.
We can see you. Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
I hear you.
Ah, very good. Big sigh of relief from the audience. Thank you so much. Appreciate you gutting it out with us. I know you're under the weather. Thank you very much.
All right, with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Let's start with a roll call, please.
Lane. Yes, here.
Hanemichael.
Here.
Daniels.
Here.
McMahon.
Here.
All present.
All right, I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item tonight is a proclamation regarding National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas gun violence affects communities across the nation with many lives lost and countless others impacted by injury and trauma, and whereas the City of DeSoto stands united in opposition to gun violence in all forms and remains committed to fostering a safe, respectful, and peaceful community for all residents, and whereas on June 6, 2025, people will wear orange to raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of those affected by it. And whereas wearing orange symbolizes the value of human life and is a tribute to those who have been lost or impacted by gun violence. And whereas supporting the Second Amendment rights of responsible gun owners aligns with common sense measures to reduce gun violence and protect public safety. And whereas we commit to supporting efforts to reduce gun violence, promote responsible gun ownership, and protect the safety of all citizens, now therefore be it resolved that I, Rick Walker, Mayor of the City of DeSoto, do hereby declare June 6, 2025 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of DeSoto. Our next item is the consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have items that include approve the minutes from the May 15th City Council meeting, approve pay ordinance number 998, approve request for a special City Council meeting on June 18th, approve fireworks sale permit applications, approve contract and permit with Wald and Company for the 2025 fireworks display, approve bids for Miller Park restroom and concession stand door and frame replacement, approve modification of common consumption area hours, approve disc golf sponsorship agreements, approve transfer agreement with Panasonic for 5 Mile Sewer Project, and approve 4-year lease agreement for a 2025 Kubota tractor. Is there any item on the consent agenda anyone would like to remove for further discussion? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
McMoran.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? All right, I'm not seeing any takers, so we will go. Item 3 is old business, and we don't have any, so we'll go to item 4A, which is consider ordinance 2653, renaming a portion of 103rd Street to Energy Way. And brought this item before the council. It's more than just a renaming or a symbolic gesture. I think it's a reflection of this new energy, this investment, and this great opportunity that Panasonic's brought to our community. When Panasonic selected DeSoto as its home for the electric vehicle manufacturing, battery manufacturing facility, it marked a new chapter in our local economy, and it made us part of a national story of innovation and sustainability. So I think the street name is a way for us to mark that and make that part of our legacy here in DeSoto. Energy Way represents a clean energy future that Panasonic is helping to bring, creating new jobs, careers, and opportunities in our community, and it's a reflection of the collaborative spirit that we've shared with Panasonic and the city since they've come to town. I'm proud as mayor, and I know the community is proud to have Panasonic as a partner in DeSoto's future, and we are proud to mark this partnership in a meaningful way with this street renaming. I would ask if there are any comments from the council on this item before we consider the ordinance. The ordinance number is 2653. If we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2653, changing the name of a section of roadway in the city, specifically a portion of Lexington Avenue and 103rd Street located between Evening Star Road and 99th Street to Energy Way.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
McMoran.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. To commemorate, we've got a sample sign. And I would like to invite Mr. Swan up, Alan Swan up, and I'd like to present him with the sign.
Thank you, sir.
And I would offer the mic to you, the podium to you, if you want to provide any comments.
Yeah, I don't mind. Thank you.
You want to do another
Yeah,
photo? Sure. Sure.
In front of the.
Oh, where, right, yeah, whatever you. All right.
Are we on? Are we on?
Yes.
Okay. So Mayor Walker, council members and the community of DeSoto, my name's Alan Swan. I'm the president of Panasonic Energy North America, and we are so grateful to be in your community and be in your city. It's been a pleasure. 3 years ago we announced, just under 3 years ago, we announced that we were picking DeSoto as our site. About 2.5 years ago we actually did some groundbreaking. And we're about 2 weeks away, I told the mayor earlier, we're about 2 weeks away from actual full production. We're actually making product right now, but it goes through a whole series of checks. And we are so pleased to be here, we're so grateful. And I love the name Energy for so many ways, but the energy in DeSoto and the community and the energy in Kansas as a state has been outstanding. So I think it's really appropriate. And the words you mentioned earlier, Mayor Walker, I think are terrific. So it's a real symbolism of the collaboration, like you said, and really delighted to have that street name changed and we will very much proudly be able to send that out to people. And when they come to our address, they'll be coming to Energy Way, and that's outstanding. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, we'll move on to our next item. Consider resolution number 2066, scheduling a public hearing for the Arbor Ridge Housing Incentive District.
Yes, Council, we recently followed the same process for the Flint Meadows residential project. What you have before you tonight is simply a resolution scheduling a public hearing on the development plan that has been submitted by the developer for this project. I believe Rick Odo is on online if you have any questions, but really the only action is to consider the resolution scheduling the public hearing on this matter. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Patrick? Okay, not hearing any questions. Are we ready to make a motion to set the public hearing?
It's resolution 2066.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2066, scheduling a public hearing on the project for consideration of RHID for residential development of 68 acres of land within Arbor Ridge subdivision for July 17th, 2025.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
McMorrin,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Lane. Yes. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item C, receive a report from the Northwest Consolidated Fire District.
Yes, Mayor. Yes, Mayor and Council. The strategic.
That was fast and easy.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you for having us tonight. Todd Maxton, Fire Chief, Northwest Consolidated Fire District. With me tonight is Deputy Chief Mike Baxter. Brandon, thank you for kind of giving us the template. We haven't done this in a while. We have informal talks about what's going on. Sometimes our calls are late at night, the times that we really don't want to talk to one another, but that's the nature of what we do. I know that you recently heard from the Sheriff's Office, so this is our version of the public safety update. Northwest was actually part of a consolidation between the DeSoto Fire Department and Johnson County Fire District 3 in 2010. We did not have that many paid employees. Then there are some people that are here now that were involved with that then. That was very important for us at the time to become who we are today. 2007, we were predominantly volunteers. 2017 is when that kind of went away, since we focused a lot more on a professional fire department, and call volume started getting, it started picking up, inspections, things like that. We do cover 70 square miles. A fire district sometimes is hard to explain. Most departments in Johnson County are municipal agency fire departments. We're a fire district, so DeSoto is our city. We have 3 stations, but we're also covering, outside of the city of DeSoto, Lexington Township and a part of Olathe Township. There's a look at our fire board members. Think of us as a school district. We're a special district since we're not tied to a municipality. Our governance is different than any other fire district, maybe in the state of Kansas, because when we consolidated, the city of DeSoto appoints 2 positions, the county, BOCC, and the 6th district commissioner. They appoint 2 positions and they rotate that. Each of those are 3-year appointments. And the open one that's up there now, that just got filled by the BOCC. Rochelle Zaid will be joining us to fill a term. There's a map of our district. I know that's kind of hard to see. To the north is the river that separates us and Leavenworth County. To the west is Douglas County. The southern boundary line is 143rd Street. We butt up against District 1. And then to the east, the city of Olathe and the city of Lenexa. 41 employees to date. And we used to have a lot more part-timers. Again, that was another part of the transition as well. They do come in handy. Right now, it's 1 or 2 part-timers that we have. That is the most recent addition with the extra resourcing that we were able to accomplish with the Community Improvement District. All of our firefighters are certified at least at the level of an emergency medical technician, and we do have a handful of paramedics. Organizational chart, that's also kind of hard to read, but it's distributed. We have 3 shifts. They do work 24-hour shifts. We have a battalion chief on duty at all times. That's the shift commander. And again, you can see the board, the fire chief, and the deputy chief with minimal admin support at this time. This isn't the best subject that we want to talk about right now. We started out this year in great condition with our apparatus. We've had a couple of bird strikes, to say the least. We had a truck involved in an accident. And then this weekend, one caught on fire. So there's some irony there, but it doesn't leave us in the best position. So we've been working after hours to make this work. So the message to the public, the community remains safe. It's just not the best condition for the fleet right now. But we're working on it. It's going to be okay. That's our Kill Creek station with what's supposed to be there for the most part. We do have a smaller boat out of that station. There's a boat slide coming up if you just want to advance through the stations there. And then that's our south station, which covers the predominantly rural area, and it runs a lot of mutual aid calls. Next, please. There's the boats. I know some of you have been on the airboat. We like to do that because we do need training on the river. That's a tremendous asset, the airboat and the inflatable boat. The airboat also serves for factory settings. A lot of people don't know that, but we ventilate smoke out of factories sometimes too, and we get called out of district to do that as well. And I'm sure this is becoming a lot more public. There's going to be, I know the city council is going to have an opportunity as well as some other members. But then later on, the public getting to view this wonderful facility that's going to open by year end. This is the Sunflower Fire Station. This will be replacing our downtown fire station after a lot of energy and thought trying to make the best out of every possibility. So with the Community Improvement District, the funding mechanisms that are in place, and Panasonic paying for the bulk of this building, and through ARPA funds through Johnson County, contributed to 100% of the cost. So we've had to be tight with some of our spending due to cost, but you're going to see a very good product, and it's going to serve our community very well into the future. A little overview, it's fire and EMS, and we do other things too, the inspections, respond to hazardous material incidents, and any other odd thing. We're the 24-hour people. We're between us and the sheriff's office and the on-call public works people. We're here to protect the community after hours and all hours. Automatic aid agreement. We hope the community, you don't need to know this, but it's there. We have probably one of the best automatic aid agreements in the nation. It doesn't matter what's written on the door. I know if you get into northeastern Johnson County, you don't know what city you're in. It doesn't really matter. If we run out of fire trucks, we're going to have Lenexa, Shawnee, Olathe, District 1, and we reciprocate that aid to them as well. Call volume. This is what Chief Baxter is really focusing on right now. The total call volume is still not a lot. We're able to keep up with that capacity with all 3 stations. The thing that's really our focus area right now is the overlapping calls. So approximately our call volume is up 12% compared to like a year ago, but our overlapping calls, simultaneous calls at one time, we're experiencing a 22% of the time when we're on a call, we're on another call. So we're exploring some ways to do that. And again, we have some funding limitations to make everything happen. That average response time really hasn't changed. It probably will change a little bit with the movement of the station, but also with the annexation and doubling the size of DeSoto, we're able to get into an area. The ISO rating, that's how we're rated with the Insurance Services Office. That 3 is a good rating if you live within 5 miles of any fire station. And we've actually, the way that we look at it, we've expanded that area with where that station is going to go, especially to the western areas of our district. We've been working a lot with the city, especially in building plan reviews. You know, Panasonic, we're there 2 or 3 times a week working with the city building official Cameron, and then the other fire prevention programs, those stay in line too. USD 232, we participate. We're doing standbys. Usually if there's a request that comes in, we'll try to accommodate it from any citizen. Reasonably, right? Right. Then again, there's the fleet overview. When everything is in service, we really are much better than we have been in the past. Then some of you know, in about 10 days, we get to go up to Snyder, Nebraska, and we're doing the final inspection on our first aerial truck. This is one of the biggest milestones for the district and the city to be able to have that. We're hoping that many good things come out of that. That's going to be a tremendous resource. And we're also hoping in the near future that will help us on our insurance ratings as well. That's 100 feet building height. We can get up to 6 or 7 stories is the reach on that. Then the really fun part when we talk about budget and finance, we still have limitations. The fire district, the bulk of it outside of the community improvement district, we rely on property taxes. And that's our obstacle. Mike, thank you for working with us on that and listening to us. That is one of the biggest priorities that my board has. We're limited, especially when it comes into the tax incentive program. So we're thankful that we are able to do the things like the CIDs, but we need to keep those conversations happening. That's a look at 2025 budgetary experience or expenses is a little misleading just because we had to account for a $2 million fire truck in there. That's not normal. Typically we've been running, it's increased, we're running about a little bit over 80% in personnel cost. Property taxes, I would say, and funding mechanisms is our number one weakness and challenge. We've been doing a lot better with employee wages, but I don't need to tell this body that, but the cost of services and equipment and fire trucks do not keep up with inflation. So what was a $400,000 fire engine 5 years ago is now almost $800,000. It's unbelievable. Then we're gonna keep at it. Our firefighters are excited. We used to be a lot more reactive than what we are now. The ability to sit down 2.5 years ago and to talk about assisting with planting a flag, I think you might be familiar with that conversation. Mike has put us in a different position, in a good position. We've been able to become a much more professional organization. Our firefighters, they've wanted to go to the bigger departments before, but our call volume's up, our equipment's nicer. We're gonna open up a new fire station, and not only for my firefighters, but it's also for the community, and it's gonna be something that they're gonna be really proud of. So there's a lot of work that's went into it. We're thankful for our partnerships. That kind of wraps it up.
All right. Any questions from council for Chief Maxton? Good job.
Nothing. I'll
I
take
was
it.
going to ask about the fire truck, but you covered it. Boy.
The good discussion or the bad
The
one?
bad one.
We'll talk later. How about that one? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right. Item D, consider authorization of costs for 95th Street overlay.
Yes, Council. Joe's out of town this evening, or he'd be presenting this, so told him I'd take the reins on it. We've been working with Evergy since the 95th Street project was done. There's some damage to 95th Street that they're responsible to repair, and we've kind of been patching that. This will actually repair the damage that they did. But what we also want to do while they're out doing that is do a 2-inch overlay over the entire width of the street. So the total cost of the contract, they've got Bettis Asphalt contracted doing that. Total cost about $263,000. Our part of that's $129,000, and that'll take it from Lexington Avenue about halfway to Sunflower Road. Is where that work will stop, and then we will, with our own crews, overlay the rest of to Sunflower Road. So this will get about half of that street overlay. We know there's plans in place to kind of, for a larger project there on 95th Street, but understand it's going to be 4 years, who knows, 3 or 4 or 5 years. just think that this is a good opportunity to get this work done pretty cheap, and have a nice driving surface there for that road in the meantime, because we know traffic's not gonna probably decrease much there. So funding will come out of the 2025 overlay program, so we program this into that. So if we could just have a motion to authorize me to sign that agreement with Bettis, that's the recommendation.
Questions?
Not necessarily on the section that's gonna be done, but Sunflower and 95th Street, the intersection there got beat up pretty hard during all the construction.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for repairing that intersection area where?
I'll have to get with Joe on that. I know that, you know, the returns, the radius is there. There's a pipe culvert that's damaged. I'm not sure if that was something that we were gonna do when we do the overlay. I'll have to get back with you on that.
And was that on us? Was that on the Panasonic project, since that was 5 Mile Sewer, or?
Yeah.
All the trucks from that?
I'd be guessing. Joe might know exactly who did it and is on the hook, but if I had to guess, there's probably fingers pointed every direction.
Because I mean, they got bad at that intersection.
Let me make a note and we'll get back with you.
Wasn't there also a water line strike there that caused some emergency
Yeah.
excavation and work?
Everybody was at that intersection at one point.
Yeah.
Well, and the power crews were in and out of that corner every day because that
Yeah.
was their storage yard.
Which is
so-
where kind of it's the Evergy trucks putting all the weight on it.
Right.
Yeah, gas company went through
Mhm.
there. That's
So.
gonna be hard to sort out.
Yep.
I'll get back.
And the intent then is to get the remainder of the overlay done this summer as well with our
Yeah.
crews. So
Yep.
complete job.
Yep.
Did the lighting ever occur there too? The lighting that we talked about one time before at that intersection?
Were we gonna
That
have
was so dark.
a nighttime light there?
That was
at
at
intersection?
that was-
Lexington and 95th
Oh.
Street.
That was on the
That was-
east side of
that was at
Lexington.
Oh, that was,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that did get,
Is there a light up there
I
now?
believe so.
I'll have to drive
No?
there on the way
Check it
home.
out tonight.
Yeah. We'll have
I'm sure we'll be out here after dark.
I'm working on it.
All right, any other comments or questions? Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the cost of $129,224.99 for the 2-inch overlay of 95th Street that will come out of the cost of the 2025 overlay program to Bettis Asphalt and Construction.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Tripp. Oh, sorry, McMorrin, excuse me.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All
Howdy.
right. Item E, consider change order number 2 with Garney Construction for wells 7 and 11 improvements.
Yes, council. So the rehab of these last two wells will be the last two main components of the Panasonic funded improvements we're doing on water treatment stuff. When we initiated the contract with the Garney team for the rest of the water treatment plant, this wasn't part of the scope. But they have a team there engaged and ready to jump on this. So what we'd like to do is have a change order. This first part's only $19,500, and that's for them to go down and do some test wells and do the design, the preliminary work, and then there'll be another change order later on once they get a firm price on the rehab of those two wells. We have them funded within the Panasonic agreement. We have about $1 million each well, so there's about $2 million, which is about what we've been paying for the wells that we've already rehabbed. So this is just kind of the first step. You'll see another one come here probably in a couple months for the rehab work. So again, I think this is just asking for your recommendation to approve change order 2 with Garney, $19,500, and funding is from the Panasonic funded projects.
Okay. Any questions from council? Motion?
I'll make a motion that the administrator approve the order number 2 with Garney Construction in the amount of $19,500 by the city manager,
All right, we have a motion
administrator.
No, second that.
and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McMorrin.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item F, consider ordinance 2654 regarding the rezoning of 36000 West 103rd.
Yes, council, you recall, you previously passed an ordinance extending the publication date of this rezoning of Clearview City to PE, which is planned development. The Clearview City has requested that that publication date be extended further until the end of this year. So the ordinance that you have before you is to extend that publication date. If the applicant wants to withdraw their rezoning request prior to the publication, they can do that, but otherwise it will publish as indicated in the ordinance.
This is Dave Rhodes in the Clearview City property.
Yes.
I'm going to
Oh,
declare a
that's right.
conflict that my company is our Lawrence office is doing some work for me. You have the con. Ron.
All right. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from council? Okay. If we can get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2654, amending the publication date and therefore the effective date of previously adopted rezoning ordinance number 2631 to extend the date to December 30th of 2025.
And I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
McMorrin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item G, consider purchase agreement for 8255 Weah Street.
Yes, council, following your direction at I believe it was the last council meeting, the mayor engaged with the scouts on purchase of the scout house. Ultimately, we ended up with a agreed purchase price of $45,000. The purchase contract in your packet, and I updated the drive today to incorporate the revisions requested by the scouts. But we've reached agreement. There will be a due diligence period where we'll review the title work, and they did conduct an environmental phase 1 study on the property, so we'll have an opportunity to look through that. Assuming there are no issues with that, then we'll proceed to close on the property. So what you have before you is the binding contract for the city's purchase of the Scout House.
Questions from council?
So what are we gonna do with it?
I don't know. A number of thoughts, but it's like.
We don't have a firm idea, but we'll get it.
No, it's just a small parcel. It's mostly about, the thoughts that run through my head are, downtown gets a whole lot busier, the building's not rehabable, perhaps it becomes some overflow parking or some
Well,
parking.
that was kind of my wonder, is what might we scrape the building?
I think, I mean,
Potentially.
potentially, it could be the highest and best use, but it may not be either. That's. But if we don't act, then we've lost an opportunity, and then we, like 5 years down the road, when there's maybe something in there that we don't want to see in there, and we can't do anything with it, then we'd say, somebody would say, man, I wish that council in 2025 would have bought that property when it was available. So.
Yeah, I just didn't know if through the course of kind of working it through, if some thought had been conclusion had been arrived at.
No, Jay's always looking for a spot to put something.
Park a mower.
Yeah, I talked with Rhonda Patterson of the DeSoto Days Committee's always looking for a spot to, so I mean, as long as the structure's there, somebody's gonna be looking to probably take it, make use of it.
Okay.
But-
We are gonna have to find a public use or they will want to charge us property tax.
Yeah.
We talk, maybe storing document,
Right,
we've got lots of documents.
We're having to give up file space up in this building, or move things, so maybe that's another potential.
We'll move the mayor's office.
Move the mayor's office downtown.
Nice.
Put the chamber down in the scout house, of course.
So is the action to approve,
Authorize the purchase.
authorize the purchase
contract.
through the real estate purchase agreement that was provided? That's the
Yes.
intended action.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the real estate purchase contract for the DeSoto Scout House as submitted with the packet.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Ronamichael.
Yes.
McMarion.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item H, consider acceptance of easements, private road and right-of-way for Guardian Estates.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is a final plat for Gaudium Estates, and just as a interesting thought, we now have, at least under my tenure, we have an Arcadian Estates, which means rural paradise. We have a Nirvana Estates, which is freedom of suffering, and now Gaudian, which is joy in Latin. So people must really like DeSoto to be naming their final plats all these interesting names. I digress. However, all right, so you have a minor subdivision plat. There's 5 lots on this property. It's part of the JAA Farms. It's on the, it'll come off of Corliss Road, and the applicant and their engineers tonight is here in the audience tonight. And if you have additional questions, you can certainly ask them about what their thoughts are, but they have asked to be platted into 5 separate locations, and they have a private road, which is really the key reason it's on the agenda, not just on the consent. And a private road does require council approval, and we did bring this to the Planning Commission, and they did approve this. They did want some additional language, making it very clear that the road was not just an easement, but it's a road, it'll be built to city standards, and that the applicant is responsible for maintaining this road in perpetuity until at some point future councils may want to accept it. It is also will be designed and built to city standards. We do have a rural subdivision road cross-section, and Joe's been reviewing that and working with the applicant on this item as well. Finally, they will want to have a gate at the entrance. We've talked with Chief Max and then also confirmed with Cameron, who's actually our fire marshal. This is acceptable to Knox box, which will allow emergency access should something occur. Additionally, there will be a public water main which will go through the site, and we'll have 2 fire plugs in within the plat itself. So we feel like all public safety issues have been covered. So as far as our platting requirements through the minor subdivision process, it meets those requirements. It's gone through approval at the Planning Commission, and really the item is the acceptance of easements and rights of way. We did also request 30 additional feet for width on Corliss Road. You can see it's kind of shaded there in the portion that touches Corliss for additional right-of-way for a potential arterial that could be on Corliss, which has been granted. And so we've gone through many steps, met with the applicant several times and their engineering staff, and felt like this was an appropriate use. Didn't see any time where this potentially could be sewered and be part of a larger development. It's part of East DeSoto, which is quite a ways from our sewer plant. We just don't see any real viable use. Felt that this was an opportunity to get some sort of value out of a property that has really, isn't really even used much for farm ground. It's kind of, a lot of it's in floodplain, and it's, like I said, it's on the east side of town, which we have designated in our land use map as a rural subdivision type of use, and this fits within that context as well. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you have, but we do need to have, if the council decides to move forward with accepting the easements and rights-of-way, we'll also need to have a motion that says that the private road is an acceptable or approved part of the plat.
Okay, any questions from council?
Do we have any others in town, like private roads?
We have a few private roads, but they're not to this extent. I know there's a private road in Oak Country. I'm not exactly sure how it got there. I've talked with the applicant a couple times about what they can do to help improve that, but we do have some, actually, I think, and then 99th Street, which is not totally in DeSoto, but that's also a private road.
Is that 97 Terrace?
Yeah,
This
97
one here?
Terrace. That one there
That's
is
a private road.
private road,
Yeah.
and there is some frontage along 97 Terrace that is part of the city of DeSoto, and then there's a short little piece in Oak Country that is a private road as
I
well.
thought, what's this area out here? Hobbit's Hollow?
Yeah, Hobbit Hollow, there you go.
There's some
I knew there was
over-
another one.
Over here.
Yeah, you get back in.
This is I guess, several lots, several homes this is all a private road that comes in through here.
Yeah.
And those are the two ones that I can think of.
And
I guess
do we
I'd just-
maintain that or do anything to it?
No, not either one.
Okay.
Now, 97th Street, we were talking a little bit before the meeting. 97th Street, it's been more than 10 years ago. A few of the residents along there came to the council and said, please take this, please make it a public street. And at the time, we said, okay, we would, but not unless we can get all of the properties along the frontage annexed. And there's 3 of them that are, or that are not, and they never did. So it's still just a private street.
So does the private street start at Corliss, or does it start at the end of what looks like?
It starts at Corliss, and they did want their
No,
gates set back.
It starts at the end of that cul-de-sac bowl.
Okay, well, I'd stand corrected then, Mike.
So that up to that cul-de-sac will be city street?
City street. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the intent of the applicant and mayor, at your discretion, he's, I'm sure, could say a few words, but, would be that the gate would essentially be at the cul-de-sac bulb at the end of that. That's where the gate would be. So it's a public street to public standards, public right-of-way dedicated for Explorers Trail up.
So would there be potential for other houses on the Corliss right there, or can it stay private?
There's one lot platted, a lot 5 that's
Okay.
platted that conceivably would take access onto the new Explorers Trail cul-de-sac. But then this lot 1 is all the way up to Corliss, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Or concerns? Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the utility easements, the right-of-way along Corliss Road, and approve the private road for Gadium Estates.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
McMorran,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Montemichael,
Yes.
motion carries. Oh, excuse me, Mayor Walker, excuse me.
Yes. All right, item I, consider acceptance of easements and right-of-way for Geiger Concrete.
All right, thank you, Mayor. No Coolio name with this one. It's just final plat for Geiger Ready Mix. This does conform to the recently approved special use permit. We did request for a utility easement around all sides of the property, also right-of-way dedication along Evening Star, which allows for potentially an arterial or even potentially a expressway of some point. The applicant is working with Kansas Board of Regents to get the road constructed, and so we've got some issues around that. But as far as the plat itself goes, this conforms to the recently approved site plan and the special use permit, and is agreed to by the applicant for the road dedication and the utility easements around the site. So with that, I will stand for any questions you may have.
It's not nearly as interesting.
No.
It's square, right? Yeah. Any questions from council? Motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the easements of the right-of-way for Geiger Ready Mix, according to the final plat presented at the meeting tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
McMoran,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Lane. Yes. Motion carries.
All right.
All right. Ed, yeah, I voted first. Item J, consider change orders for the City Hall renovation project. Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor. While I'm not overly thrilled to be before you again with more change orders, it is the nature of the beast with this project on a 100-plus-year-old building and finding more and more surprises. Before you tonight are 4 change orders. 3 of them are new. 1 of them is a revision to a previously approved change order. Change order 15 is the revised one. That last time I was before you for change orders, we approved the repairs to the existing chimney. At that point, I had gotten word from the contractor within 30 minutes of the meeting that he believed that the demo would be about the same cost or lower. Once he got final pricing from his subcontractor, you'll see that pricing did come in a little bit higher than the previously approved change order, about $4,071. Icon Structures did waive the 10% markup, which is standard by contract on that change order, in hopes that it would help the city out financially, as that was our desired outcome, was to remove that chimney down to the roof level, as it's not used anymore, and the taller it stands, the more of a maintenance and upkeep it will be long term. The other 3 change orders, change order 13, ledger board and shoring replacement. This one's been a long time coming, probably 2+ months, as we've worked with engineers and things of that nature. Within the northeast corner of the 2nd floor, the ceiling roof framing structure, when they demolished the old plaster ceiling, they found essentially a ledger board that's holding all the ceiling joists and rafters that was almost non-existent. It's been shored up since, trying to figure out how we repair that in a safe and structural manner to ensure the longevity of City Hall. This change order is to bulk up that shoring to where they can remove that rotten wood, remove any rafters or framing that's bad, replace it with new, and get that roof ceiling structure in that corner of City Hall really well supported to accept the new utilities and new ceiling within that space. The other change orders, change order 18 is exterior soffit. Similar matter to the ledger board when they removed the old soffit to the core here of City Hall. A lot of the rafters, the rafter tails and ceiling joists that extend out that support that soffit material are severely deteriorated. A lot of the decking of the old original roof was severely deteriorated. It kind of opened our eyes as to why the new pitched roof with all metal framing and a metal roof was put over the existing roof, because it was probably a whole lot cheaper and easier to do that than to try to repair what was there. That being said, this repair is primarily just to those rafter tails to get adequate support for the new aluminum soffits and fascia material that's going to go up there. Without that repair, the soffit install, the contractor will not warranty the work. The manufacturer's specifications on support wouldn't be met. The driving cost on a lot of that change order is access. The lift to get to that area, you'll notice, is listed as a line item by itself. Due to the access points with all the additions, the lift is incredibly long to get to that area. So a lot of that is equipment rental. They have proposed, 4 weeks worth of work to that. Talking with the superintendent, if we can get some decent weather, that is worst case scenario. They would anticipate there could potentially be a deduct to this $49,000 total when it's all said and done. But in order to make sure that once they start this project, we can get it completed, this is what the change order entails. The last change order you'll see is change order 19. This is probably the most unexpected curveball that we've seen on this project so far. Within the garden level where the old ADA ramp was, when that ADA ramp was demolished to construct the new ADA ramp, the wall framing, the walls and the columns between the windows were all wrapped in framing and drywall. All of that had to come down due to being constructed over the top of the ADA ramp. When it all came down, it exposed the original plaster and masonry column structure of City Hall. There are 3 columns down in that garden level that are severely deteriorated to the point where the contractor immediately called a shoring contractor to come and shore the floor structure up at City Hall. I know the mayor's seen it, Mike's seen it. I probably could have included some photos, but I forgot. It's going to entail a lot of work to get that repaired, a lot of additional shoring, removal of all of that damaged brick. All of that block is obviously 100+ years old. It's a product that's no longer made anymore. It's more of like an interlocking clay brick product, to where when one course is removed, subsequent courses have to be removed, to where the columns have to be completely removed and reconstructed with new CMU block, fully grouted, to ensure that City Hall is structurally sound for years to come. We don't see any signs that City Hall has any impending dangers or an unsafe condition, but the structural nature of those columns and the severe offset and shifting of those blocks has really pushed forward this change order that is, in staff's opinion, necessary in order to make sure that City Hall doesn't become a safety hazard and doesn't become an unsafe structure. So with that, the total for the 3 new change orders and the amended change order would be $93,236. Just because I know that the question is going to come, this would bring the total of change orders approved to date on this project to $292,711.34. The remaining contingency balance that was previously approved would be $28,088.66. Also of note, I'm working with the contractor currently on 2 major deducts off the original contract, so money back to the city that was originally part of the scope. As the project has evolved, one of those is plaster repair due to the furring of those exterior walls and the plaster walls in the second floor. There's a lot less plaster repair needed. Right now, that estimate on the deduct is roughly $14,000, and then previously it was specified for the second floor and that interstitial space between the new roof and the old roof to be a dry pipe sprinkler system due to that area being unconditioned, unheated. Upon demolition, we have found that that area is actually not out of compliance with code. All of the combustible material is below the old roof, and it is being filled full of insulation per the previous construction drawings and contract. So that system is being transitioned to a wet pipe system, which is significantly less. They're still working with that contractor, but we do anticipate that deduct to be upwards of $10,000 as well. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Cameron?
How is the demo progressing in terms of, how many other areas are left to find what's underneath of something that's
Just
buried.
stop demoing stuff. Stop
Yes.
demoing stuff.
So at this point, demolition is 99% complete on the second floor and the garden level. Talking with the contractor, the anticipation is within roughly 3 to 4 weeks for the second floor to be have drywall hung. We're hoping to have that within 2 weeks to where everything's closed back up. Just to give you an idea of where that scope is, demo on the second floor is completely done to where everything's getting closed back up within the next 2 to 4 weeks. The exterior, all of the masonry tuck pointing of the brick to the core of City Hall that was part of the contract is complete. There might be a couple little spots that still need touched up or washed, but there's no more demo or revisions to the brick on the exterior. The soffit demo is complete. The garden level demolition is all complete as well. The only demolition remaining would be on this first floor as part of phase 2, and most of that demolition, 99.9% of that demolition is to walls that were constructed as part of the 2000 remodel. So no original structure being demolished on this first floor. So as far as demolition goes, we're probably 99% complete with the exception of the little bit that's on this first floor in the new walls, newer walls.
Does the structural challenges to those columns bring up any concerns to structural integrity of other parts of the garden level down there? Where there might have been other columns that were similar?
No, all the other columns on the garden level are exposed. Those were the only columns that were wrapped in that framing and drywall. The Arts Council room, those are all exposed, and they're all in good shape. The restroom facility down in this corner over here is all exposed, as well as directly underneath us right now where the boiler access used to be. Everything else is exposed. So this is an isolated event.
It did create the need to give another look, though, just to make sure that,
Yeah.
are that some of these exposed columns, or we didn't miss some.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
while-
first thing I did when I saw that, I was, dang, I gotta go.
And we had the structural engineer while he was on site, looking at those columns to design the repair. We did have him look at the rest of the garden level as well, just to ensure that we weren't missing something also. So
The restroom wall thickness, is that still a pending potential change order that we encountered there?
as far as
You know, we've
the,
got the, originally we anticipated like a 13-inch wall, and now we've got a wall, an air gap, and another wall. Is that gonna?
no, we've kind of revised that drawing, that area, that doorway that was supposed to be there. There was supposed to be a physical door there. We've eliminated that door from the scope due to the nature of that restroom being an all-gender restroom where all of the toilet facilities are within full floor-to-ceiling walls with lockable doors. And really the only thing that would be in the public area, I guess you could say, not behind a door, would be the hand washing sink. But due to the nature of the access going down that hallway and around the corner, it's still a very private restroom. It's not like it would be out in the hallway. So to answer your question, we've eliminated that door. It's actually probably going to be a slight deduct, probably a few $100s, in order to ensure that we're maintaining that ADA compliance. Because if we were to put the door there, that wall thickness is what was going to throw us out of ADA compliance and became a problem. So.
Another little bit of context, just briefly. 28 grand is not a lot of contingency left over. So that's why, I mean, obviously, within our CIP, this is one of those mandatory projects that we talked about our CIP. We've programmed the funding for this in the debt service fund since 2 years ago. That's funded at a level several $100,000 above what we authorized for the project. So it's conceptually in the projections. So the mill levy, the debt service fund, we are anticipating to bond for these improvements this summer. And it will be less than what we've seen. And when we get to the budget, I'll point it out if I remember.
Yes,
there's still several $100,000 in there that we were expecting to have to spend, but we hope not to. So.
Yeah, so the budgeted CIP number is $5 million. And that was based on SFS's budget projections at the end of design. If you'll remember correctly, the construction bid and contract came in significantly under the architect's estimate, as well as the next agenda item, the furniture, actually came in under as well. All in, as we sit right now with the furniture that's on the next agenda item and these change orders with a full contingency being spent, it's between $500,000 and $600,000 underneath that $5 million budget number that's within the CIP. So,
All right, any other questions from council?
So that bathroom will be ADA compliant then?
yeah, all bathrooms within City Hall will be. That one became a challenge due to that wall thickness and the door being there, but we've worked through that and it will still be ADA compliant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the city administrator to sign change orders 13, 15, 18, and 19 for the city hall renovation in the amount of $93,236.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
McElrain.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Cameron. All right, item K, consider furniture proposal for City Hall renovation.
Thank you, Mayor. This item brought before you is for the procurement and installation of all the furniture to finish out the newly finished spaces within City Hall, as well as the offices within the first floor that are just relocating to other places on the first floor to replace just the furniture that's being moved on the first floor that is severely outdated. Anything that is new and in good condition is going to be reused. SFS Architecture designed the furniture as part of the previously approved contract for their Phase 2 design services. At the time, they estimated the furniture total to be $345,050. As we're getting further along in construction, getting closer to that completion date and needing furniture, we've worked with the architect. They have worked with a company called Spaces Incorporated. They're located in Lenexa, Kansas, right up the road within 15-20 minutes of here. They've had great luck with Spaces in the past as it relates to service and warranty work, and as well as procurement and installation. The architecture firm has worked through the Omnia Partners contract for this furniture. This is a pre-bid contract similar to those that are utilized by Mid-America Regional Council for other things to give municipalities within the Kansas City Metro and across the country, increased buying power by pre-bidding directly from the manufacturer to secure discounts and competitive pricing on all things. This also complies with purchasing policy agreements for bidding and procurement. You'll notice the total for both phases of furniture comes to a total of $270,073.12, roughly $75,000 under the architect's estimate. That does include installation of all the furniture, whether that be up the stairs or the small bit that will go through the elevator to get it all to the second floor and installed. You'll notice it's broken out into 2 phases. This is due to the phased nature of our construction. The second floor furniture really needs to be shipped prior to the first floor furniture to ensure that the first floor furniture doesn't show up months in advance and incur storage costs or burdens upon the city trying to find a space for it within our existing resources. Breaking it out doesn't affect pricing at all. It's all, like I said, under that Omnia Partners pre-bid contract. It's just purely to get different ship dates on first floor versus second floor to where it shows up when we're ready for it, gets installed, and we don't incur any additional costs. The furniture design, as far as desk colors, styles, tables, chairs, all of that was all designed by SFS Architecture and their interior designer who designed the interior environment of City Hall. Everything was run by their architect to ensure that the furniture within the space still maintained ADA compliance within all of the offices. Make sure we didn't put a huge desk in a little office and have a tiny little walkway for somebody. And we have gone through the original estimate and kind of pared it down to what city staff really would utilize and needs. And that does also carry over to those meeting and conference rooms to where we've proposed enough chairs and tables to make full use of those meeting spaces on the second floor without having an abundance of extra tables and chairs that we have to try to store within our envelope here. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Cameron on the furniture package?
I'm glad to see you with all height adjustable work surfaces and on the desks and offices. It's good ergonomic feature for employees.
Yeah, and I mean, within the last 5 years, even the cost on those has come down to a point to where it's really not that much more expensive to go to those height adjustable to provide that flexibility for staff within the space.
You talked a little bit about phasing and being able to do it in a couple different phases. What is the lead time then for what would be the first need?
They've indicated 6 to 8 weeks, which would put us mid to late August. The contractor has indicated that they're on schedule for a turnover date of the second floor and the garden level in mid to late August. So that puts us right on schedule with them. If it shows up prior to the space being ready, the installation contractor, MSI Incorporated, whose space is used, located over in Shawnee, they have a warehouse and they include 30 days worth of storage at their facility at no cost as part of the install. So if it does show up within that 30-day window, it'll be stored there, brought here, and installed. So
Very good. I like it.
All right, any other questions or comments from the council?
I'll make a motion to approve the city administrator to purchase the furniture in an agreement with Spaces Inc. for the first and second floor, coming to a total of $270,074.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Daniels.
Yes.
Hanamichael.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
McMoran.
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you, Mayor, Council.
All right. Item L, budget discussion.
Yes, council. Here we are again, initial budget discussion. I do want it to be a discussion. I don't want it just to be a dialogue here for 15, 20, 30 minutes. I don't know how long this is gonna take, but we'll try to keep it as brief as is appropriate. So as we've done the past several years, start off with kind of a higher level policy discussions, feedback, and input. Focus mostly, initially at least, on revenue projections, because these things are massively impactful to our budget and really impactful on a lot of policy decisions that we're going to be making about capital improvements and about programming and about other enhancements. Increased services that we might want to do, but a little tweak makes a big difference, especially on things like sales tax. And things like franchise fee revenues, as you know, kind of dwarf the discussion when we're talking about revenues so much that it's almost most cities are hyper focused on mill levy and property tax, and that still plays an important role for us, but less and less each year. And so we'll talk a little bit about all that. So. First thing is the budget calendar. Brandon helped me put this together. As it turns out, it looks like we have the legislature kind of gave us an extra month this year. So, Brandon, can you describe that a little? Probably better than I can.
Yeah, so they did a little cleanup bill during the legislative session. If you remember, we had basically two dueling calendars, depending on if you exceeded the revenue neutral rate or did not exceed the revenue neutral rate. During the legislative session, they basically allowed all cities to adopt the budget no later than September 20th. Before that, if you weren't going to exceed the revenue neutral rate, you had to have it by August 25th. So they basically give us an extra month.
Yeah.
Budget.
Great. Yeah, so, and for us, as we'll talk a little bit later, with the impact of the Panasonic TIF, essentially it means that that tax is still collected, but obviously we can't use it for any. So it's going to be, I shouldn't say impossible, but almost impossible for us to meet the revenue neutral rate because of that. The partial valuation on the Panasonic property itself represents almost 60% of the assessed valuation of the entire town. And that's just on the partial, just what's. So that factors into the revenue neutral rate, and they don't back that out of the revenue neutral rate. So as a result, I think it's going to be almost impossible for us to meet that revenue neutral rate. So what I've done to start with, we've got the 2024 year-end projections, and I think I've, over the course of the spring, we've kind of shown some of this as we talked about the CIP, and we talked about excess revenues, and things like that. So I continue to update those projections, and I've got those as Exhibit B to the staff report. And mainly at this phase in the budgeting process, I'm kind of really using, as we do every year, it's really a 5-year budgeting process for us. We look out 5 years and try to project what decisions now are going to mean 5 years from now, and maintain that 30% fund balance target that's in our fiscal policy. So a big part of that are these percentage adjustments. So for 2026, we're plugging in real numbers, based on department heads' recommendations and our history. Those are real numbers. But for 27 on to 31, they're just inflationary factors. So with franchise fees, so we have inflationary factors for revenues, inflationary factors for growth and mill levy, new construction, and inflationary factors baked into there for appropriations as well. So health, insurance, personnel, contractual commodities. So this is something you've seen before. Shouldn't be new to you, but I do want to show that to you because it does have an impact. Exhibit B to the staff report is those 5-year projections. It's my big ugly spreadsheet. I mean, actually, it's not ugly. It's complicated and cumbersome and boring, and I don't want to bore you with it. But it's a big part of my life.
So it's not a big, beautiful budget?
No, it is not anything like that. If you want to start a Twitter war about that, Brad, we can do that later. So what I've done, provided you in Exhibit B, is that whole big thing for the general fund, law enforcement, and the debt service fund. Those are the funds that are supported by property tax. And the projection you have in there is, I'm calling it a baseline budget, because basically what it does is it keeps the same level of service that we're doing for this year and projects it into next year with the revenues that we're projecting to see. And does not factor in any what we've called budget enhancements. So what we did, what Brandon and Bonnie had spent the previous couple months doing is reaching out to department heads and asking for budget enhancements. So this is anything that really exceeds $10,000 or $15,000 that you can't just put in a line item in your budget. Maybe it's a big kind of equipment purchase, but some of the more impactful ones are new personnel positions. So you'll see that when we get there. If it's a new person in the building inspector, or a new custodian that we might need because we have twice as much city hall as before. So we have those. There's 18 or 20 of them. They total about $900,000 for next year. If you plug them all in, we can't do them all. But none of those are included in the baseline budget. So what you see on those projections is that. So when we start on the revenue side, of course, the biggest thing we always start with is mill levy and valuations. You might remember last year I kind of struggled with how to handle the property tax from Panasonic, because even last year there was a partial property valuation that was pretty significant. And that's tax that we collect, but obviously we just grab it and it goes into the TIF fund. and it stays in the TIF fund, and it's 100% TIF. So then it gets reallocated, and Panasonic will make draws on that for the improvements they've made on that. So we're not using it, but we do collect it. Last year, what I did was in each of the 3 funds that collect property tax, I show it going into the fund, but then I show it being transferred out of the fund. So it's kind of a artificial pass-through. This year, I think it's best we don't do that, because it kind of messes with your fund balance as a percentage of your expenses. You know, we have that 30% level, and it sort of messed with it last year a little, but this year it wouldn't make sense to have that number in there. So what I've done on this table, and you might have seen this before, this kind of goes back to 2017, so it shows assessed valuations, so these aren't appraised valuations, but these are assessed, for real property, personal property, utilities, and then I've separated out Panasonic specifically this year. So you'll see, so then last year we had a total valuation of about $174 million. That was what's plugged into, that's how we came up with the mill levy of 3.78. But then out of that we had these transfers back. You'll see this year it's reduced quite a bit, 157, but 207 million of it is Panasonic's valuation alone. So our real property valuation went from 158 million up to 349 million. But 200 million of that's Panasonic, so we're not going to see it. So what I've done in our for the purpose of our mill levy projections is I've come up with this effective valuation of 157 million. So that's it's a little bit different. It makes this chart look really kind of silly, and it doesn't mean a whole lot, this assessed valuations, but when you're looking at just that, that's what it means. But this, this number here, that 207 million, you can see why I didn't. I started putting it in there, but it just really kind of messed with how we really visualize that. So that's kind of how we took care of that. On the sales tax projections, again, we saw this doubling, between 23 and the middle of 24. We saw this doubling of the sales tax revenue, the sales tax activity within the city. Now, that's not a doubling of our overall sales tax revenues, because we get sales tax from the county as well. So that didn't double. That's kind of been pretty flat, actually, over the last several years. But we did see kind of this major jump between 23 and 24, and so far this year, through the first quarter of 2025, we're even about 10% higher than we were in 2024. So it not only is it kind of remaining elevated, it's still kind of climbing, but there's still, I'm pretty confident now. Who knows? But with what happens with the construction activity, but a lot of that has to do with the construction activity at Panasonic. So even though they're IRB'd and the construction materials aren't charged tax, things like equipment rentals are charged to tax. So our biggest sales tax payer for the city for the last 2 years has been United Rental. Every month they show up at the top of that list. Have you seen all those man lifts out there? If you've driven by the side, there's hundreds of them out there. So that's that. We also get sales tax from the materials that Evergy's using to build out their infrastructure. So that's another big bump. So I do see it coming back down. It will come back down to some other base level. But who knows? Maybe there's another project. Merck announced a big. Right. So
Merck already has announced, and that's going to be 2,000 plus construction workers.
Yeah, exactly. And we also know there's an element of this that's just that economic activity too. So tried to be still Midwestern conservative with the fiscal policy here, but not so conservative that we don't take advantage of and start to plan for and think about larger possibilities, that we might have in terms of tax relief, or programs, or capital improvements, or just trying to walk a line, right? So without getting too deep into and I guess that's kind of the whole story. This is what our sales tax projection's looking like. So this peak here was 2024. That's how much we collected in 2024. 2025, like I said, first quarter is 10% higher. So this number here that you see, I don't know, it's a little on the chart there, but for 2025, this is what I'm showing projected. that it's actually lower. Actually, probably conservatively enough, this point could be up, even level with 2024 maybe. So that's the number for this year, and then next year, it kind of goes back down to this sort of line of relative projections that we'd been seeing the previous 10 years, this upward 3 to 6% sort of increase in the sales tax projections. We kind of normalize back on that. Now, there's a school of thought that could say you could take this peak right here from 2024 and just extend it up on this projection. Anyway. Probably overthinking that. I know we only budget 1 year at a time, but that's what that is. So the general fund gets sales tax. The debt service fund also gets sales tax too. So this chart's kind of a different scale to it, but it's sort of the same concept. Great big bump in 2024. Then 2025 projections kind of back down to normal, and 26 would go up. This is in the debt service fund. Franchise fee revenues are even harder to kind of wrap your head around than the sales tax. There's less certainty there. We know that, we'd had estimates, from the Panasonic facility several years ago. Once it's in full production, franchise revenues from it alone might exceed $4 million. We knew there would be a ramp up. We initially thought that the construction activity, we would see notable increases in franchise fees. We did not see that in 2022 or 23. Didn't see it in 24 even. And really, we've kind of started to see a little bit of an uptake. And Cameron's my best source, really, of information for this, because he's out there every day. He knows what boilers are in and what production lines and what transformers are powering on. And as Mr. Swan said earlier this evening, their production lines are in place, and they're starting to proof test some of that, and so they're expecting full production of a production line. Remember, the building's built for 8, so we're talking about 2 maybe, or 1 or some, certainly within the next few months. And so that kind of has made, I think we talked earlier this year about how we've really reduced our expectations of that revenue, and now we're even probably more conservative. So last year at this time we plugged in maybe a $1.3 million of franchise fees from Panasonic. We'd see in 2025 we've got a $500,000 figure in there now, and then 26 and on we're even still remaining conservative there. So this is then what franchise fee looks like, still a massive increase over what we're talking about. That's the trickiest one, because it's really big impact, especially in the out years. I have no reason to believe they're not going to be using a whole lot. I mean, they didn't build all that power for nothing. But just haven't quite seen it yet, and so it's something we'll keep in mind. Real close. Already talked a little bit about the property tax, the revenue neutral rate, and mill levy stuff. And kind of the change in philosophy there that we did it. The baseline budget that's attached to the staff memo shows a flat mill levy. And I have another little thing that wasn't in your packet that I want to get to before everybody falls asleep, to show you what it would look like if we kind of did our own revenue neutral rate that didn't include Panasonic. So for the discussion, the initial discussions, that's flat. So this is kind of what the baseline projections look like. And we've since, actually just today, Bonnie finished up the end of the month for May. And when I plug that in, sales tax is higher. Interest on the Panasonic funded stuff. Interest is, we're going to add probably $500,000 to that projection for anyway, the yellow bar here, we got 2025 budgeted. This is where we thought that was going to end the year. We reduced that. Remember, in the spring, we reduced it mostly because of the franchise revenues to 7.4. If we looked at the spreadsheet right now that I just finished up this afternoon, this is back up to 7.9. That it's higher, slightly higher. But notwithstanding that, this is kind of the baseline budget. So the two dotted lines here represent the difference between kind of the lowest fund balance ratio as a percentage of appropriations. Remember, this is that 30%. We have a fiscal policy, maintain a 30% fund balance in that. So you can see on this projection, it only gets down to around 55%, 50%. And you see the 30% line down there. So there's about a 1.8 maybe $1 million, which is kind of what we said. I think we talked about it in the CIP discussion last time. So we're around $1.8 million gap. Now again, this is flat mill levy. This is nothing included in terms of budget enhancements. So that's kind of the baseline. A quick look at debt service fund. As we talked, there is in the projections, a $7.2 million bond issue this year. $5 million of that is City Hall, so that number could come down. Payments to Astra Sewer Benefit District are also in the projections, but this is kind of what the debt service fund, again, mill levy remaining the same. No capital improvement fund in here at all. There's no. This is the baseline thing. So you see the fund balance. You know, it's still up. It's up over $1 million through the projection period. We don't have that 30% level need in our fiscal policy. There's no really need to keep a fund balance in the debt service fund like the other ones, because you don't have unexpected costs throughout the year. So you can see there's some room in there. Law enforcement, we've incorporated the recent multi-year contract into that. Relatively, mill levy steady. We could look like we could decrease that in the coming years. So it's relatively stable there. We talked about, well, other revenues. Let's see here. This is kind of the chart for other revenues. Building inspections, another big thing for the projections this year and actually for next year are these pass-through third-party inspection fees for Panasonic. I think we have $700,000 in there for next year, Camo, we estimate. But it's just pass-through. So you see it as a big bump in the revenues, but it's not actually real because we just do it. The big bump is the interest, though. So 2024 actual interest, $3.9 million. I'm showing $2 million here in this chart. Based on the end of month May, that might go up to $2.5 million for the interest. So this number could increase a bit. Want to talk a little bit about budgets enhancement. So I've Exhibit C there in your staff report. I'm going to go down through this quickly. Are the budget enhancement forms, and there's 18 or 20 of them. The first page of Exhibit C is the summary. And these are in no particular order. So some of these are one-time costs, and some of them are, say, would continue. So there's new positions in here. There's new programs in here. There's increased funding for, for street maintenance and other items like that. So the sheets that support there kind of give verbal descriptions of it. I think they're decently descriptive enough where you can kind of understand what the intent of that is. I've only about halfway through talking with department heads about this list, and kind of we don't really have a staff recommendation on it yet. And kind of by design, we wanted to get in front of you and get you thinking about this and get you thinking about things you might want to add, because this is just us, right? So, or things you might see in here that just that's a non-starter. We do that, But these are the things that we will eventually need to plug into these projections. So if you'll just humor me just for a second, I'll promise I'll make this quick. In Exhibit B, this big spreadsheet I've got here, there's purple highlighted lines on Exhibit B. Those purple highlighted lines are those budget enhancement requests. So we've got 0 in for all of them, essentially, in these projections. If we want to add them, I just go and add numbers to these lines so that we can see how for some reason there's numbers in here. They shouldn't. Anyway, I'll be able to easily model ons and offs and funding that or not funding. So that's kind of I went through that pretty quick. I did want to show you a few scenarios here. At the end of the staff report, I've got a couple scenarios. So scenario one, if all the budget enhancement requests were approved, you said, yeah, let's do them all, let's do everything, bam, this is what the 5-year projection looks like. It heads into negative territory, and so it would keep going down from here. Probably not where we want to be. If we only approved the non-personnel enhancement requests, so some of these are ongoing. There's an increase to the street department budget. There's a lot of them are one time. You could see that the projection, you'd still have a gap in here of room to do some excess with the 30%. You're not anywhere close to it. This is if only the one-time enhancements are approved. And then number 4, if only the added personnel. So just kind of some way to kind of get your head around what the possibilities are, assuming you accept everything, all the revenue projections that I was talking about. The last thing I want, again, before people fall asleep, is to have a look at this idea. Just kind of had the thought this afternoon that with the position we are with the revenue neutral rate and the Panasonic and just not be able to do that, what could we do to show or to from a policy perspective present a budget that we could tell residents that we're going to keep your city taxes level. Your city tax won't go up, so what is that? And so if you look at the county appraisal, the valuations, the revaluations, they kind of break all this stuff out from residential and commercial and how many units there were. So you can get to, when you boil all that down, the average existing residential property in the city went up in value by about 6.1%. So their valuation went up by 6.1%, which means that if we want their taxes to remain level, we'd have to reduce the mill levy by 6.1%. So for us, what that means is we'd have to go from a mill levy of 13.78 this year down to about 13, and that would kind of keep the taxes level. If we left it at 13.78, the average homeowner, their tax bill would go from $520. This is only the city tax bill. Would go from $526 a year to $555. So about $30 increase if we just left the mill levy level. So these next two charts kind of shows the impact of the projections with that mill levy. So as I said before, I was working on this late this afternoon. So you see this yellow bar is now about even with, this is the 25 budget and the 25 projected. You see this went up, mostly because of that increased projection for the interest. But at any rate, you can see the difference here on if the top one is if we left the mill rate flat, and this would be the mill rate flat for next year, and it's the same throughout the projection period. This mills stay the same. You can see where the line is there, kind of it's above this sort of red line here. And then look on the bottom one is if we lowered that millet to 13, you see what happens here. This is just the general fund, so this assumes you're taking all that out of general fund and leaving the debt service and leaving the law enforcement fund. So those two would stay the same. So, if you just look at this in the context of how big these bars are and where these silly red lines are, not a whole lot. It's certainly within the margin of error of these revenue projections, I can tell you that. So that's what I'm getting at when I'm saying kind of the property tax, the mill rate is becoming less of an impact for us, which is nothing but a good thing. But it's really easy to project how much money you're going to get from mill levy. It's a little bit harder to project and accurately predict how much sales tax you're going to get on any given year, especially with us. That's why I maybe if I'm erring in being too it's on the too conservative side. I want to stop there.
All right. So you're approaching where my thought was, where you were at today. Is I know our assessed valuation is climbing dramatically with the Panasonic coming online, but what my focus wanted to be was maintaining flat or slightly declining property taxes for.
Real dollar property, not
Yeah.
mill levy, but dollars.
Nothing that, I don't
Yeah.
give a darn about that, the mill,
Yeah.
it's about dollars you pay, so.
Yeah.
But that 6.1 increase offsetting that with the mill rate reduction to balance, which is likely gonna put us, if you exclude Panasonic, valuation from, the calculation probably puts us revenue neutral essentially. We're gonna generate the same tax dollars nearly on, year to year.
That's what I really tried to do here.
Yeah.
This is kind of our own revenue neutral.
Yes,
rate,
and
sort of.
that's where I thought we needed to head.
Yeah.
That's kind of what my head was wrapping around.
And we could do more. I mean, we could,
And
what
then-
if we reduce more
Yeah.
scenarios here? Okay, well,
Any other comments from anybody? Any thoughts, questions?
No, I agree with that approach. There's still so many unknowns. There's a lot of opportunity to make adjustments, but I think if you think in terms of absolute dollars, be able to make that adjustment to the mill levy, but trying to keep absolute dollars constant, that's a benefit to all of us. When I say we all as citizens are benefiting from greatly enhanced city services. I would agree with being very Midwesternly conservative on what might happen with franchise fee, because that's going to be completely dependent upon their pace of acceleration of production. I believe it's going to happen. I believe it's going to materialize, but the rate at which that's going to change is a variable. It'd be nice to get a year into it and see
Yeah.
what the trend line really becomes. Same way with sales tax. Do you keep that sales tax trend where it is, or can you shift the whole trend up or down? I'm thinking probably a year away from knowing where that's going to go. And then use the opportunity in the near term to modernize, city facilities, city services. Kind of like Chief Maxton talked about, you've had the opportunity to grow the professionalism of the fire district, the fire department, fire staff. I think the city is in a situation of also modernizing and maturing in our operation. And so if the total impact in gross dollars does not go up for the routine citizen, then let's use this opportunity to bump the modernization of city operations and city services. I thought.
Yeah, the council as a whole, year over year, has been focused on reducing property taxes for the residents. And coming into last year, we reduced it substantially, but not with the intent to see it go back up. So, yeah, the body as a whole, our direction has always been the growth benefits the residents, and that means out-of-pocket property taxes remain or go down further while improving the amenities and the resources available to the residents as well, so.
And you see, my sales tax projection, it basically just goes flat across
Oh,
the intersecting
yeah.
trend line again.
yeah. It intersects it at 2031.
Right,
doesn't it?
it just goes flat.
Yeah.
We're not gonna lose ground on them. I mean, could, but.
Yeah, I would say, I get from Johnson County Education Research Triangle, I see the overall, all the cities and whatnot, and it's, DeSoto is growing at a faster rate, certainly for reasons that we understand, but the county as a whole is also growing better than last year.
Yeah.
So overall, it's improving, so
Yeah.
I don't think a backslide.
Well, if we thought these projections were tough, wait till you see how tough it's going to be to predict the water in the sewer. Because I've been working on that this week. That'll be, I'll present that at the next meeting. That'll be the focus there. And much like this, it's just like, the water revenues that we thought would be there, they're lagging a little bit. We have brand new plants really that'll be starting to be committed, we're using the water. If you get the water out of the fountain, you're drinking the water from the new water plant. They've switched over to it completely here last week and don't plan on going back. So that should have been a bigger deal maybe, and I didn't even know about it until a couple days We'll have a ceremony out there at some point. It's quite the
Throw
We
some
never got to
faucet on.
cut a ribbon on
We-
that, you know, that lime silo project we did
Oh,
12 years ago, we never got to cut the ribbon on the lime.
I still have the ribbon. It's intact. I'll bring it. But with a new facility, it's
Yeah.
it's really hard to know how much power, chemicals, all that. So it's a bit of a struggle on the two. The sewer is a little more predictable because it's the same type of plant. But anyway, so I'll be presenting those at the next meeting. I do want to thank Brandon and Bonnie. The last year was the first year of the new budgeting software, and that was just a tremendous effort. I thought, boy, that's good that we've gotten all that work done. Well, it was another tremendous effort again this year. We've gotten the department heads more involved, and I think by the time next year rolls around, we'll really be up to full speed on the new. It is very helpful in the back and forth between budget requests and why did you do this and the communication there. So I want to thank Brandon and Bonnie both for the help on that. It's behind the scenes, but it's helped me out quite a bit. I'm sticking to my spreadsheet for now, though.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, and to that end though, I gotta compliment you for the complexity that you've absorbed over the last 2 to 3 years, certainly over the last 2 years, and the level of conscientiousness that you're putting into looking at the alternatives and how to manage the budget, and all the while of absorbing the complexity of the alternatives. So great job.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's exciting stuff. The budget was easy when we didn't have any money. All we had to do is
Yeah,
keep the
results
lights
same.
on. It's like the answer's no. It was easy. It's a little more complex now. And the struggle really is to, not to get wax too philosophic, but there are massive opportunities ahead. So we need to be thinking big, but we still kind of have a Kool-Aid budget for now, to a degree. So, okay. Well, thank you for that, Kevin.
All right. We'll move on.
All right.
No executive session. All right. Advisory reports. Mike, anything
No,
else?
nothing more. No. Thank
Patrick?
you.
Nothing from me.
Brad?
Nothing, Mayor.
Brandon?
I'll round us out with nothing.
No joke.
All right. Council comments. So I don't forget, Victoria, you have anything you want to start with?
Nothing for me.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much for hanging in there tonight. Very much appreciated.
Danny, anything for the group tonight?
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Kevin?
I got nothing.
Rob?
Not tonight.
The only thing I have is an update on council vacancy. I've got 2 candidates working. I will have a recommendation for you at the next meeting. My thought is perhaps we put that as the very first thing on the agenda, and then assuming we'll have them here. I'll share resume and information earlier in the packet, so if you want to have conversations with my candidate, you can do that before the meeting. And then if we approve the candidate, maybe they would be here and sworn in, and then we could have them seated in that meeting. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Great.
And I think that's all I got.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.